fully staffed, we get 2 ambulances out the door right away. But to answer your question, Herb, no, we didn't 100% see how it's broken down. That was just the hard set number of what it was going to cost. On top of the, I believe it's 3% increase townwide.
It's 3.5.
3.5% increase townwide. That's what that includes in that number as well. Thank you.
Anything else, Herb?
No, I'm good.
John?
I haven't really got my head around the whole thing just yet. I think the hardest hill to climb for you guys is you provide a hell of a service currently, and I don't hear any complaints about service or availability or, hey, these guys are never here when we need them, that kind of stuff. So when I think about the situation, as much as I love to think that, hey, Newport can be a shining hill on a star, shining star on the hill that says we have the best, most, whatever coverage in any particular department, kind of going from history, and in our current economic state, generally speaking, Newport hasn't been a community that can afford the most best of anything. I think we provide a hell of a quality service now, and to try to add much to that is a big ask for our community. I like the idea. I think I would have to agree with Hunter that as a budget goes, I think getting creative and offering more to the call folks is a step that makes sense to me. I don't see where this entices call people. I see where it entices career or full-time crew, obviously, and maybe makes it so you don't need so many call or volunteer people, which certainly makes sense. But where every business in town is struggling for people, trying to, they're limiting hours, limiting services, just trying to stay status quo, to add hours, add costs, to try and raise the level of service, I think is just a bit of a tough pill to swallow. I think, not that I would ever want to see us, missing calls or the level of service dropping off. I think it's just, it's unfortunate that we haven't had much time or data to really explore this so that it could potentially be part of a budget. Because I do think, to your comment, it does seem a bit of a end around kind of, hey, we're not in the budget, but I see a way where we can get something in the budget and kind of force the issue where it's not really the way it's supposed to work. So I feel for you, but I can't get excited about it because I don't think there's quite enough planning gone into it.
This is 2 years in the making for us. So the chief, as far as my understanding, is that it was put in last year and it was put in this year as well. And it was taken out both times.
I think what John's saying is, the numbers may have been put in, but basically, the scheduling and how it would all work and get laid out, the format so that, okay, this is how it's done now, this is where the holes are, this is what this would fix, and such. So I think that's important in understanding and making the switch, and it is a change. It is a change in coverage, and theoretically it would provide better coverage. But as John said, I think the coverage you guys provide right now is probably as good as anyone around here, if not better.
So that's the problem, is we're our own worst enemy. We have 3 ambulances, and more often than not, if you call, someone will come from home, maybe, but you can't guarantee it.
Right.
And the whole thing with, this, we don't have people beating down our door to come in and work for Newport. They're not coming to volunteer. They're not coming to, apply to be a per diem EMS. So, you know, one of the reasons why we looked at the schedule was because of that. Because we don't have that luxury that some other departments have. Whereas, you know, so if we have a day where we don't have coverage, we'll be able to provide that with the full-time staff. We'll be able to get an ambulance out the door to, you know, an ambulance, an engine, whichever it is, you know, to suit, you know, someone's need.
I think with our current schedule as well, if we take away the per diems just for a minute, and if nobody wants to pick up those shifts, we can't guarantee a single ambulance out right now because of our current staffing. With only that one guy on 24s, the way it's set up is if no per diems pick up shifts, whatever happens, maybe the morale disappears eventually or whatever. The way we're set up right now is we can't get a single ambulance out or a single truck with.
How often does that happen?
On weekends, it's not uncommon.
Oh, so weekends are the issue.
Yeah, weekends are a big issue.
When I first started, there were a lot of times on weekdays too, where this was when COVID obviously first started, so
Yeah.
people were more hesitant. But that goes to show something like that can happen, and you don't have the crew there that you theoretically rely on. So I mean, it's not.
How often do we have just one guy over there? That's a little scary for me to think of.
Almost every weekend.
Almost every weekend.
Oh, so the weekend is the issue then?
Right now, the weekends are the issue.
Can you address that in a different way?
During the weeks, we're covered pretty well, but that's with the 5 people that are doing the 80% of the work, those per
Okay.
diem people.
Yeah.
You know, our fear is when, you know, that gentleman leaves in July, and if any of these other guys get the full-time jobs they're looking for, that those weekdays are gonna start turning into what the weekends are.
So if we have a call out to a fire, tell me the numbers in terms of response from fire.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
How many members?
How many members come out? I mean, you got a fire, let's say you got a fire, you know, out somewhere, and you get a call.
I mean, like a structure fire.
Yeah, how many people?
Oh, everyone comes for that.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with Jeff. You'll get a decent amount of people for those larger type calls. We had a fire on Chestnut Road
Yeah,
probably
I know that.
3
Yeah.
weeks ago on my shift. I think we got a dozen
Okay.
members. On that one, we were fortunate enough to have one of the per diem EMS folk that I had on at night was also a firefighter. So I took him on the first engine with me, so we rolled out the door with 2. And when we arrived there, we were able to get into play that much faster. So that's the advantage to the schedule too, that 2-person. Having done this as long as I have, I've been to many fires where it's me, the first engine. It's a little harder. We get it done. Like John said, no one's complained so far. We'll make it work, but it's a lot more work. And we're starting to unfortunately see that the call numbers are dropping off, and on the other calls too.
So do you think the money we changed over to call would help? Is gonna help?
I hope so. I do. I think it's well deserved, especially, you know, the per diem people that we have right now. They do so much for us. We would not be able to survive without them. The handful of call people that we have, we would not be able to survive without them. They're huge. They deserve that money and then some.
So I'm trying to figure out, is the problem, I mean, a major issue with EMS in this whole thing?
That's, you know, 74%-ish of our calls. So naturally, that's, you know, the bigger issue. But we're seeing it on both sides. While fire alone is a smaller portion,
Right.
typically it's a more involved
Good, we're
call.
thankful for that, yeah.
So getting fewer people on something that requires more hands, that's also an issue,
Yeah.
even though it's a smaller portion of our call volume.
Generally with fire, you get mutual aid coming in, but it's the first people that get there that can make a bigger difference.
Makes a
They can
huge
get
That's
that
exactly right.
First pumper going.
Absolutely.
And not only that, but, you know, being in the area that we are, you know, we're surrounded by a lot of call and volunteer departments. We're not sure, you know, it depends on, you know, the time of
Yeah.
day, time of year. You know, are they gonna get a truck out the door? That's a, you know, big concern for us as well.
I'm assuming these surrounding fire departments have the same issue with staffing?
Well,
So when you say mutual aid, It's not like, oh, well, Sunapee or Croydon or Claremont's gonna pick it up for us.
Exactly.
Because maybe they're busy.
Exactly. This
Understand.
isn't a Newport problem. This is,
Right,
like he
but-
said, this is an international wide
Yeah.
emergency
Yeah.
services problem. And that's why we're trying to figure out a way to solve. I don't think we'll ever solve the problem, but at least alleviate some of the dangers, some of the stress, and some of those call numbers.
Where's our angry mob for this one?
We don't have any angry
We had an
mobs.
angry
We have-
mob for
We
the
have some
police one.
concerned people.
We're happy people.
But, you know, I kinda wonder if we had 30 people, general public, standing in the room right now, if they would be,
Well, I think it goes back to, what we were saying, is these guys do a hell of a job. They're
no question.
making it work. I think the root of, I guess my concern is, anytime that you can get the same job done with the same number of people, but all of a sudden it costs $85,000 more money to make everybody happy, that, it seems like you guys maybe can figure out a way to work the schedule within the budget somehow, because it's not like you're adding staff, and unless everybody has just said, you know what, I'll put in 8 more hours a week, and it's an overtime thing, and everybody's making more money kind of thing, and it kind of works out, because in the business world, it doesn't really work that way, where you can take the same amount of people and just pay them a little more money and all the problems go away. It doesn't work that way. So, to Barry's question of, have you thought about adding more people? If it's truly, we just don't have the people and we're nervous about certain times of the week, but for $85,000 more, we can get more out of the guys we already have. Getting more out of the guys that are already probably feeling like they're working enough usually is not a long-term solution, unless the guys that are there are feeling like they're underworked. Where's that the case in the world right now? I don't know of one where anybody feels like they've got more gas in the tank. And that's just my 1,000-foot view of anytime you think you can get more out of the people you have, how's that possible? If that's possible, are there shifts that, if we've got 5 of the 6 guys here, I mean, who's excited to work more than you're working now?
Does this take care of it seems to me you've identified the problem as really a weekend issue, for the most part.
For now.
Well, right now, that's what we're talking about right now.
I'd say it's more an ambulance getting out or a truck staff getting out.
On weekends?
Yes, but like I said, it doesn't, a Wednesday could change and end up like a Sunday where we find out every Wednesday nobody can work. And then it's Wednesdays too. I think it's more of we're trying to solve a guaranteed problem of.
You want to be able to get a truck out.
One ambulance, yes.
Or an ambulance.
Or an apparatus.
Yeah.
So it's weekends and nights too, so at nighttime, that 12-hour day person goes home, so I just keep using myself as an example, will be on that engine by myself.
And that's scary.
Yeah. It's not a great feeling when you roll up to something.
Of course, I used to ride on the back of the engine,
Yeah.
holding on to the so,
I wish
you
we
know,
still could.
Yeah,
I wish
not me.
They ruin
It was
everything.
rough.
And the horses pulled them?
What's that? Yeah, sometimes the horses couldn't get out,
So
Is
you-
the current scheduling tailored to match the busier times? Is that why we're seeing problems on the weekends, because it's not as busy on the weekends?
No, it's pretty evenly spread now. Your daytime, early evening is probably your busiest, but we're seeing a lot more at midnight than we ever used to.
So the scheduling isn't tailored to the busiest times, it's just spread out as coverage-wise.
Yeah, yes and no. It is
I think it was
more so in the busier time, but that has also shifted. So it used to be the busiest time, and now it's kind of spread out over an entire 24-hour spectrum, whereas night shift used to be a little easier.
I think the schedule too, I don't know how long it's been like this, where it's 4 full-time guys rotating, but I can see back a long time ago, when we had higher call members, more volunteers, stuff like that, more of them probably around on the weekends, so it made more sense to lower your staff on the weekends, because they'd be supplemented with call members, which now we don't have. And emergencies don't stop on the weekends, so they kind of left the full-timers picking up the weekdays while the volunteers are at work doing things like that, expecting volunteers and call members to come back on the weekends when they're home. And now we don't have those, so now we're still stuck in the same Monday through Friday for full-time with nobody on the weekends.
Anyone else? One comment I want to throw out there, a lot of times when we get into our budgets, especially meeting with the Budget Advisory Committee, and there's people who year after year would bring up a chart and show us things and say, Newport's town tax rate is the 5th highest in the state or the 4th highest in the state. And my response has always been, well, do those people have the full-time firefighters and EMS and ambulance crews we have? Full-time police department, you know, other benefits like the library and library arts center. It's like, well, no, well, which of those do you want to give up? And that sort of quiets them down. But people see that, oh, 5th highest in the state, you know, and they don't understand the benefits that we're more or less buying by being in that position, by having you guys, you know, the police and all. So, you know, it's sort of like our job with the budget, you know, we need to respond to the needs of the community, but we also have to look out for the taxpayers. And some, you know, it's like, you know, it's not a big concern, the increase in taxes, but we've got a lot of people on fixed incomes here and stuff. They're probably the people you see more than anyone else, so, you know, they've got to be able to absorb, you know, any tax increase, you know, and understand how it's benefiting them, so. Anyone in the public want to comment on this? Nope. Anything else? Anything else you want to add, or?
Appreciate your guys' time tonight.
No, we appreciate you coming in.
If I look at this though, I mean, 19 cents, that's bigger than most of what we're dealing with.
Right, but it's a question that
I'm just pointing that out.
we and the taxpayers will need to come to understanding. You know, I wish this was brought to us sooner, and that we had the more background on it, so we could see, you know, maybe some of the information on the trends in call volume and how it impacts, and being able to get, you know, apparatus out the door. So it's sort of like, you know, coming to us, you know, kind of at the last minute. It certainly is the last minute. And, you know, the impact, we'll have to see how it, you know, we'll be discussing this and see if we're supporting it or not. I don't think did the BAC support this or not?
They did not.
They did not. Okay, and perhaps they didn't have the understanding of it going forward. But, yeah, I expect we'll have a good debate on this at the deliberative session, so people can get to understand it. And we certainly appreciate all you do.
I hope somebody keeps track of, does the $20,000 we added to call for per diem, does that affect you? Does that help you? Somebody's gonna be tracking that, in other words.
Like, if we're gonna see an increase.
Yeah, you're gonna have, is this gonna help solve the problem?
An increase in participation.
Yeah.
We hope so.
Well, I do too, and, I mean, that's why we went with that, and so, you know, you're kinda caught with that too, is that, you know, I wanna see how that works. Does it work?
Right.
Or not? And somebody's got, I'll be asking the chief to be looking at that.
Sure.
So, okay?
I think, you know, just as an aside, I think, you know, I would dare say that probably everybody in the community appreciates the hell out of, you know, you guys. And I don't know if it's maybe a little bit of, I don't know if it's campaigning that might need to get done on your side, just to kind of rebuild, maybe a little bit of community connection. You know, COVID's been a nightmare for everybody, but I know there are certain departments that may have been a little harder to communicate with the last couple of years. I know our fire department has always, in the past, has always been a place where people were, you know, almost encouraged to swing in, you know. So a couple of things that in the last, you know, the deer check-in thing was a bit of a black eye in my opinion, where a lot of, even some of the call people that have, you know, big time hunters around, you know, that was a, we don't want you coming here kind of thing. There was, you know, you can only get a burn permit online. A lot of people were a little upset about that. So, and, you know, you guys had your reasons for that, and I'm not saying that it was dumb, but there definitely are people that feel like maybe they're not quite as connected as maybe they once were, and some of those people might be potential call people. So,
Not quite as inviting as it was when the doors were open, and, yeah.
yeah, obviously, you know, it's getting to be springtime. I think it might just be something for you guys to think about. You know, a sandwich board out front that says, you know, now accepting call applications, you know, that kind of stuff.
Maybe an open house.
Yeah, I think it just re-becoming part of the community as you're able, I think would be a good thing to do.
Let me ask you this, is the EMT program up at the tech center a benefit to you?
We just hired our first new EMT from last year's class. So we were able to get one.
So I do know there are 3 young men from Sunapee who now are on fire departments around as a result of their involvement here. So,
Yeah, we hadn't heard from him. He was the first one from last year's, which I believe was the first year.
yeah,
That we
good
had.
program.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit. We're very happy to see it.
Yeah.
Certainly more collaboration with the instructor up there and getting those students.
So, I've known Mr. Perry for many years. We actually work very closely with the tech program. We take them on as students, so they do their student ride time with us. And I've known Mr. Perry for as long as I've been doing this, because he's been doing it longer and longer.
Okay. All right, anything else? All right, can I hang on to this? I want to make copies for that.
Absolutely.
So we can take a look at that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for what you do.
All right, open forum. Anyone else for open forum tonight? Yes, sir. State your name for the record.
Bert Spalding Sr.
He's first. You're next.
I didn't hear it, I just came in.
Okay.
Let's talk about education as a community. I'm going to state the numbers of how our schools rank in comparison to the state. And I find it disturbing. I do not understand how we got here. I do not understand how the board, meaning school board, was not very active on the issue. I also do understand, though, that everything is wrong that is wrong, like the wheel bearing you drive until the wheel comes off. The admission of a problem by the Newport school system seems to be a problem in and of itself. Now that's my opinion, but let's see how and what you think of the numbers. There are 211 elementary schools in the state of New Hampshire, ranked from 1 to 211. We are the last at 211. Of the entire state of New Hampshire elementary schools, we are dead last. That's Richards Elementary. If that is acceptable, I cannot grasp it. It absolutely has got to be wrong. Any race that I got into, foot race, car race, or whatever it is, if I came in that far behind, I'd stay home. It is a very embarrassing number. But get beyond the embarrassment. I've often thought that education is like an archer. You hold the bow and the arrow, and where you aim it determines where it goes. That being said, all of the children that enter our school system are subject to a lesser education than the rest of the state. Whether it's money, whether it's teaching, whether it's administration, no matter what it is, gotta fix it. Somehow, somebody's gotta do it. And it is so easy to say, we can't do it, or to ignore it. Don't want to cause any waves. Okay? That means that change isn't going to help. So we stay at 211. Now this, you can say is a political statement. I intend to push very hard for us to recognize that we have a problem and fix it in one way or another. Does that mean we go from 211 to 1? Hell no. Some of the numbers that might be considered here in the elementary, Sunapee is 57 out of 211. I'd love to see that number. Charlestown, 151 of 211. Claremont, 170 of 211. So if you take Claremont as an example, it's 51 positions ahead of us. Similarly situated financially. It's not acceptable for me to say that I can accept these numbers without tipping the wagon upside down. And you guys all know me well enough. I don't care. I will tip it upside down. There has to be change. I will follow anybody who has an idea on how to change this and get it done. Whether it is a school teacher, whether it is a parent, or whether it's the superintendent of schools. It will not be silent. And I care less about how they feel about me keeping it silent. The door is open. So if that causes turbulence, then so be it. That's the way it will be. Now, to change oars and go to the Newport Middle School. Out of 125, we are number 123. Whole state, 125 middle schools, we're 123. Not acceptable. Not acceptable at all. We may say we love this community and we're doing great, and do the Lake Wabagon, I don't see it. If the effort is put in, if the thought is put in, things will change. To my knowledge, we've not been anywhere near in the past to the 211 or the end of the line, but we are now. If we go to the high school ratings, Sunapee is 10 out of 84, Lebanon is 17 out of 84, Fall Mountain is 26 out of 84, and Newport is 66 of 84. So it is obvious that it exists from the top to the bottom. There was a suggestion to start at first grade. Make an effort that had no excuses, period. This is the threshold that you have to meet. And this is what has to happen. The day that we do that and change it at the first grade, then the second grade, and walk up through, at some point, it will become very aware to those who are detractors at the beginning, or those who think that we can't do it. But if you actually set out to do it, now I don't know about each one of you, but when I decide to do something, I get it done. If I got a tire that's got to be changed, I get it changed, one way or another. Got to happen. So, what is it that it takes to ignite this, talking about the fire, to get it started? And so, that being said, at the last school board meeting, the issue was doused, for lack of a better word. But it will not be coming forward. If I can't speak about it, I will speak about it until they bring a police officer and he can't arrest me. And as a board member, I'm not going to remain silent. So that all being said, the Sunshine Town may be a little cloudy for a while. Thank you for listening.
Let me respond in part to that. Certainly, how the schools rank impact people's impression of the town, whether it's whatever it is, School Digger or whatever that app is people look at, when they're looking to move someplace with their children or bring their business and where they expect employees to move to with their children, it can impact us. A couple things. The trend, like perhaps at some point, and I don't need to know, it's for you to know, when did we fall off, or did we fall off, or have we always been on the bottom and such? And sort of on the side, where were we when Barry was in charge of everything?
Can I stop you just for a minute, Jeff?
But no, let me finish. Okay. And also, I believe one of the candidates that ran for school board and got elected, and I can't remember which one it was, when I was watching their interview on NCTV, is the fellow that worked as a long-term sub in Richards. And he made the comment that what he saw in the students at Richards that he was working with did not reflect the grading we got statewide. He felt they were better than the grades reflected. And so it's like, I would say, he may be an ally to work with. Okay, he's seeing this coming in from outside. What is missing here? It could be, we're just not checking the right boxes on some standard survey or something.
No.
But is the potential of our kids better than what our staff and administration are offering them? And I'll leave it at that. I know Barry can probably speak to this more than I.
Well, I think we have a lot of potential here.
Can I get my comment to you back?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
You and I were on the school board. Remember go back that far?
Back in the dark age, when we had to light the kerosene lamps, for the room and all. Yeah.
We had the same problem. For a matter of fact, I offered that we start at first grade and work our way up.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even get a second. So we're talking what now? Almost 30 years ago?
Yeah. But my problem with just working with one grade is you're ignoring the other grades.
Jeff, you can't do it all of them. You've got to do it here and work up. There's no other way.
Yeah.
You've got to get the basics. If you're a third grade teacher,
I'm no expert, so I'm just saying you don't want to neglect the other classes while you're concentrating on one. But
well,
I don't know.
Status quo, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because you've got to within the resources that you have, you've got to make a change, assuming that has a dollar sign attached to it. But you have to start somewhere to do it right. And if you are a third grade teacher and you've got a student that doesn't know the alphabet come into your class, Jeff, your task becomes significantly harder, your job harder, and things are slowed down. So fix it here and carry it forward, and eventually it'll blossom, providing it works and is done right. And that's why I use the no excuses, none whatsoever. You lay out Not a fudgy line like, we think we're gonna do this, or we'd like to do this. No, we are gonna do this. This is the criteria. When we do that, that's how things are done in the real world. The education community, meaning all the way up to the top in the state of New Hampshire, Ed and Blue has not sent us a letter saying, hey, guys, get on the stick, and this is how we do it. Somewhere, we've got to find it inside
Yeah.
to do it. So it'll be interesting to see how it gets done. I'm sorry, Barry.
Yeah, I think Ed and Blue would just assume, say, you guys need to go to a charter school, since you're failing. But at one point, Richards was a blue ribbon school, whatever that meant from the
Yeah.
DOE. I mean, they had some recognition at some point.
Yes, they did.
Back when Patty Warren was
Yep.
principal.
And so it starts with leadership. You gotta have somebody leading the show. You gotta have great amount of discussion about what the problems are. If a kid, you say first grade, and I agree with you, you can't ignore all the grades.
Right.
But you put substantive things in there that affect the ability, let's say, of a child to read. What do we have for a reading program? I don't know. Do we have a reading? There are reading programs in the state.
Didn't we have Reader Rabbit back at some point?
I don't know, Jack.
There was something about that
Yeah.
Project.
project.
So we need to take a look at what the problems are. Where are they? We talk about the testing. It isn't just filling out a report. The testing is designed to deal with what students should know and how well are they learning it. And that's the reason for the testing. Okay, so you can argue that's right or wrong, but that's the reason. I think we have teachers who they're ready to they'll make that commitment, they'll make that change, but we need to find out where the leadership is, we need to find out, and I'm not talking just the superintendent, I'm talking the principals and department heads and whatever. And they've got to come up with a plan. I would agree with you. Without a plan, you're going to get the same thing you've got right now, always.
Somebody's got to make a cognitive decision
Yeah.
to change and set criteria and hold it. I have a real problem with everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a lollipop, everybody gets this. What happens when they get out and have to go out in the real world? Oh, you didn't do your job? Go find another one. The reality strikes too late in life. And to say, well, let's see, we have parents who won't help their children. We need to find a way to get to those parents. It's a must. If it is students who do not want to take the test and don't like the test, then maybe this is a dumb idea. Give them a test every week and give them a lollipop at the end of the test if they pass it. Give some sort of recognition as to what they did and see if you can bring some sort of likeness that the child would like about doing the test because she feels confident of passing it.
That they know it. Yeah.
So when they get that internal feeling that they are capable, then to take it. If you feel you're the dumbest one in the class, guess what? So we need to get them to take the test. We need parents involved, but we also need to set a target, a threshold, a goal, and we need to make it clear. It's unacceptable.
And I think consistency is also important. You can't
Start it and then stop.
And you can't change to the greatest new thing every year.
Oh, big problem in education.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
How many, I'm concerned too, has there been an increase in the number of students who are now homeschooled?
Over time,
I know over time it has been.
yes. And
And they get a good, let me tell you, I know some homeschool kids who could compete with anybody. And come out ahead.
yeah, I was introduced to one time, and I was somewhat impressed.
But the problem is gotta be identified. The direction has to be a consistent, well thought out direction. You've got good teachers. I mean, nobody, you can't blame the teachers, but you need to take a look at what do we need to change? And they have to be on board with it. You know, I'll tell you a story. When I was in Pelham, when I started out there, we were in the middle of the road. I got the kids, the teachers, and the parents to commit to improvement. And we had rallies, we had everything. And we went from middle of the road to number 3 over a period of 2 years. And the proudest moment that I had was we were at a basketball game in Litchfield. We were getting slaughtered. I don't know how it happened, but all of a sudden a group of kids stood up and said, "You may be beating us on the court, but our test scores are better than yours." I thought, geez, crickets, we've made it. We've made it. And it wasn't just about the test, because the test is designed, what should kids know, and how much of it do they know, are they getting? That's the test. So, you know, I've heard people say, well, we're teaching to the test. It's good stuff, but they ought to know. I'm done.
To back up to your board meeting, you said your idea was doused?
You need to know the rest of the story. When Jeff and I were on the board, we were similarly situated. And I suggested the first grade thing. So I then suggested that to an administrator for the district. And yeah. And so then I said, well, damn sight better that a person on the administration bring it forward than me. Said better. Didn't happen. So now, what happens? I don't go away. So now somebody's going to have to stand up and say, hey, why aren't we doing this? Get it done. I don't care how many heads have to roll. I don't care who owns the head. We cannot abuse these children this way. That's it. That's simple.
Well, I think the school board itself has got to be, have that mindset as well. And if they don't, that could be a big part of the problem.
Yeah, but Keith, those who have ignored the problem for a number of years, usually in anything, even including in industry, aren't usually the best ones to make a change.
Agreed.
Yeah. And so that's one of the hurdles. Admitting that in fact the number is meaningful. We were showed a website that the state of New Hampshire has bought into. At the end of the website, I asked the superintendent, do you think the average person can get through that? And the answer was no. Then what good is it? If you can't get through it and understand it, where your child is and where the community is, what good is it? State of New Hampshire, come on. Put something out that's simple and clear and concise that the parent can see. And we talk about the Sunshine Town and things being better and so on and so forth. Well, when you go look for real estate now, if you've got children, do you look at the education rating for the town? And what happens when you see 2 of them? Where are you going to go? That's simple.
Right, yeah.
So, that all being said, I'm sorry to have taken so much of your time, but
Well, I'm looking at this picture in my mind. I see, we have an outstanding fire department, we have an outstanding police department, and we think the town of Newport's fantastic, and I personally think it is. Lived here for many years. That should in turn increase property values which should in turn keep our tax rate in check. So if we just made the effort, it should all work great.
So what you're telling me is if you take the pot, put it in some good soil, some seeds and water, that it might grow.
Well, I'm saying you need all those ingredients.
And if it grows, then, but you also gotta get enough sunshine, but we claim we got enough sunshine here to do it. So this all ought to happen. Gotta make the decision to do it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it sits like it is.
Have you tried starting out like the first grade and making some change and then, has that been tried yet?
No, because just like this board, you can't make a change. It takes the board.
I understand, but what I'm saying is if we haven't tried what you've proposed starting with first grade, why don't we give that a shot? I mean, do you have an idea what needs to be done? And can we start with just the first grade and then progress year to year from there?
I can't possibly replace the superintendent any more than you could possibly replace him. If you had to do his job tomorrow, you'd have a problem.
I'd struggle.
So guess what? You, and you gotta convince him where we're going. And that's where we are now.
I know for us, on the town side of things, you know, all of us we sit on anywhere from 2 to 10 other boards, and we're expected to. And, you know, 2 or 3 nights a week, we've got something going on. I have no real idea if that's the same kind of thing at all with on the school side. You know, if you're a school board member, are you expected to really participate in any other thing other than board meetings? And I don't know the answer to that. I see Maura shaking her head, yes.
Yes.
Is there appetite for some board members to be part of I'm thinking of like a 10% committee. You know, like on the town side, we decide we think collectively, or at least the majority of us do, that community center has to happen. It's very important. Got a couple of volunteers to be on a committee, and we build a group of community people into that same committee that, you know, understand the community, have a little bit of clout perhaps, and understand the issue and the implications of taxes and all that fun stuff. You know, would there be appetite, do you think, I know my opinion on it, to put together a committee of people to get Newport into the top 10, top 10%, top 25, whatever it is. So I know you and I think a lot alike on a lot of things, and I think anytime I see everybody getting a trophy or whatever is a horrible thing, but I would hazard a guess that most of the schools that are in the top 10 also give a trophy to everybody. So maybe the dynamic that you and I are thinking of really isn't the problem. You know, maybe it's, you know, I always think of, if I want to try to be the greatest at something, who is the greatest now? And I'll probably copy them and just work a little bit harder. So if there's the top 20% of schools, what are the things that they do that we don't? Is it simply a ratio? Is it simply that they don't have special ed kids? What is it? And identify those things. And then we have some marching orders. And with that information, you're able to kind of come up with a plan.
So the first thing that would happen is this board would ask this man to come back with your obstacles, possible solutions, and doable. That would be the first step. And that's where we are right now. But the rewards, I took my school board salary back then, and I paid for all of the kids to be marched from Richards all the way down to Village Pizza to have soda and pizza as a reward because they improved their numbers. Now, because I speak directly, maybe too stark, some people may say, well, Jesus, you know, we're 211, he wants us to go to 10. I'd be satisfied if he took, well, wait a minute, let's go to the middle school. The middle school dropped 20 points between the last grade, 20 points down. I'd be happy if we could get 20 points up and then the next year do 15 and climb. We never will get to Sunapee's number 10 unless somebody dumps a lot of money here. But we can't stay where we are. And it is, in my terms, always easier to get up from the bottom of the barrel because
So there's only one way to go.
so somebody cannot convince me it's not doable. We got there, we can get out of there.
Yeah, there's an acronym for what you're describing. Was it strengths, weaknesses, obstacles, and threats?
It's called SWAT.
SWOT. You know, you look at those 4
Opportunities and threats.
opportunities and threats. You know, and you identify those, and that can help define the direction you take. And I'm wondering how much of the loss, say, like you mentioned, middle school dropped 10 points or 10% or something, you know, is due to COVID. Because, I mean, they're finding, you know, remote learning impacted what students learn.
Yes.
Students are not where they were expected to be if they remained in the classrooms.
But didn't COVID apply to all districts? So rising ocean brings up all ships, brings them
When the
down.
tide goes out, they all sink, and if they all sink, those that are on top remain on top, right?
Well, if they all sink, those with life rafts will be the last one around.
But
Majority of the top 10 schools are the richest towns in the state.
What came first?
What's that?
What came first?
Well,
I mean, were they always the, I mean, there was a time where, you know, we were one of the
no,
richest
but-
times at
Yeah,
schools.
but I've watched. I watched
Yeah.
like Bow.
Hmm.
Now they've established themselves. How did they do that?
Right.
You know, and others. Takes an effort, and somebody's got to start driving that effort. It's not. There have been many things that have been done here, Keith, that have been good things to start, but particularly at the elementary level. They've tried a lot of different things. I don't know how consistent it's been in terms of over the time. And, you know, we went through a period of time where we had, what, 4 or 5 different superintendents in very short order. One guy was 60 days, and another guy was asleep. So, you know, we got to have consistent, I think what we do, we have consistent leadership. You just got to get him to move in that
you
direction.
need to get the parents on board.
Oh, if you don't have the parent-
Does
yeah.
Richards have a PTO that's active or not, or? I'm seeing some head shaking up and down here. I mean, sometimes that's where you need the groundswell to come from. That group needs to start showing up at your school board meetings and asking some serious questions and expecting some serious results from you. I mean, for you and maybe one other school board member to talk to the rest of the board and the superintendent and say we need to do this is one thing. But you start getting the parents in there asking very pointed questions about what's going on in the schools, why have they dropped, what's going on, what's being done, and such. Why aren't kids reading at grade level? I mean, I think that's where you light a fire under a school
If you
board
want,
superintendent.
if you want reading on grade level by grade 3, you're going to have an awfully hard time.
And I don't think we're there from everything I hear. But, I mean, I always hear that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's the parents. You need the parents that pretty much give a crap about it. Come in.
But Jeff, when you have a meeting and they go down person after person and they talk about the great things that have happened. That's it. To me,
You mean the school board does?
no, well, administration that comes in, 2 school board members, meetings. So that's where I've always separated it. You're talking about the frosting. The cake can be rancid underneath, but boy, it looks good. So we are about that. That's what happens. Just go back in NCTV and watch the meetings and see. This is what is happening. And it is, to me, it is denial. I can see the children that do well being recognized. I understand that, that's great. But we also have to face the problems, period. And that's not happening. So that has to change. That's the first thing that has to change. And when that changes, then the people will know. Now, how many in this community know that there was a drug incident in the gymnasium at the high school? We had a survey that was sent out to every parent and every teacher and every child in the system, 92 responses. Out of the 92 responses from all of those categories, was the 8th grade bathroom was the drug capital of the school. 92 people. Not all of them, but it was the majority. So when that was brought up at a meeting, I made a right-to-know request for the answers. Couldn't get it. Another person made a right-to-know request for him, and he got it. And then we went to the board with it. Outside of that, it was...
You know, it may be a separate incident, but I remember was meeting with Hunter one probably Friday about things, and somehow it came up, or I might have heard and asked Hunter about some sort of drug incident at the high school. And Hunter called over to the fire chief. Nope, nothing we heard about. And police chief, nothing we heard about. I think probably finally figured out it's like, oh, someone had a seizure and they needed their EpiPen or whatever it's called or something. And that was the drug incident, as far as we could tell. Maybe a different incident, but sometimes things that, you know, are, I wouldn't say routine, but do happen. You know, student has a seizure or something, or adverse reaction and needs their shot, whatever it is, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they overdosed or something. But that one incident, the one where, you know, Hunter and I, you know, I was with Hunter called over, did you guys respond to the high school this week for an overdose? Like, nope, we didn't. You know, so sometimes things get out of hand. I'm sure there are incidents up there. I'd be surprised if there weren't. But this was one case where, I think, Herb, were you in on that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Herb was there, and maybe it was Herb that had heard it. But Hunter called and it's like, nope, nothing here. So.
Okay, well, that's good.
So sometimes, you know, rumors get out of hand when it's just a, you know, something that, you know, he needed his medicine or his EpiPen or whatever it's called.
All right, my rebuttal to you will be 92 people. The majority of them were clear. They included teachers, students, parents, and it was put under the rug. So that to me stands out. If you accept where you are, then that's okay. You can accept to live in the slums. You can accept to have a home of your own. You can accept to go live in a tent. I got that. But when we're teaching children that are sent by the parents, we have a responsibility to be better than 211.
Yes.
Have we been experiencing heavy turnover in staffing and specifically teachers at Richards or the middle school?
Principals at Richards have changed recently, but we have a lot of turnover, and part of that is because of the disparity between what teachers get paid. Mm-hmm. So if Hanover is here and Sunapee is here and we are here and you're a teacher, you put an application in, and if you can get $10,000 more a year here, guess where you go? That takes the teachers who can garner that money away from us competitively. And I have said right along that the solution to our disparity between all schools in the state of New Hampshire is caused by the state of New Hampshire. If in fact all negotiations for all teachers were done by the state, every teacher in the scenario that I gave would all get the same amount of money. What really happens right now is we're in an auction. The person with the best price gets it. Shouldn't be. It just doesn't foster growth and education. And I like to use this scenario. In the 1700s, we were at the bottom in the world as far as countries go. And we went from the bottom to being number one. And how did we do that? We did it by liberties, freedom, and that is growth. It is the plant getting watered as opposed to the plant starving for water. So we can do it, but we have to put a mind to it.
I'm just seeming that, I know I'm thinking back when I was in school, it was a stabilizing effect in elementary school years especially. You went to first grade, okay, you get to know your teacher, you get to know some of the other teachers. You went to second grade, first grade teacher was still there, and you knew your second grade teacher. And therefore, and you just felt comfortable, you could learn. If these are constantly changing people, you're gonna have a lot of nervous little kids that aren't gonna really learn the way they should. Maybe the problem isn't in what we're doing as far as teaching them, maybe the problem is somewhere else. Maybe the problem is making an atmosphere where they can learn.
We have to find all of the problems and suggest solutions. Find that some work, some don't, but we have to do something. Doing nothing is not acceptable.
Looking at the numbers, it looks like they're just not getting off the ground early enough. They're learning, and you can see the numbers getting a little better each time. And I would say probably because the high school is a little further up the ladder, you got charter school and private school kids coming in, that are probably skewing those numbers a little bit because they're getting a different education and coming in and making better numbers and pushing us up the ladder a little bit. But it looks like it may be inherent through our system that, we're not getting better. It's just that we got kids coming in from outside that are making the numbers better.
Status quo,
Yeah,
enough to get by.
get by.
We didn't fall off the bottom. I wonder what they'd give us a number if we were, is there a 222?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to ask.
Okay, well, thank you so much for listening and participating. But as a community, we have to make a decision to change something. And if not, I said that I would resign, and I will. But when I resign, it'll be war. On the other side, you will not shut me out. And I will put all your underwear out there on the line for everybody to talk about. So they want to keep me on the board, I think, but they just don't think that way.
I don't think it's the board's decision whether they keep you on the board, it's the voters, unless you choose to step aside.
Well, I got on. Nobody wanted the position, so damn it, they had to put up with me.
Well, you've got 2 new board members now, right?
Yes.
So, see how that changes the dynamics.
Well, if you had watched, you would have seen that we had a very good, long discussion about the 3-minute limit.
I think I was in a different meeting in this room at that time.
Yeah. And the rebuttal there was not good. My statement was, wait a minute now, the Board of Selectmen runs their meeting and you speak ad nauseum, as we see tonight. A lot of time, and you haven't even got to your stuff yet.
Yes, I've noticed that.
So, that being said, but they got to have a 3-minute limit. The 3-minute limit silences. There are many people who can't get their expressions through in 3 minutes. They repeat. There are many people that are just timid and don't want to go to the mic. And then there are those that are angry that go there and it falls apart on anger.
Yeah.
So give them a relaxed environment in which to come speak. which you do. And I've told you that that's a big asset with you. And so you keep on the chair. If you give it to somebody else who's got a gavel, I'll be in trouble.
There's a gavel right here. So.
And you never used it. Matter of fact, I've never seen you reach for it.
No, that's because turned it over to Keith. He's in charge
Oh,
of the
Keith,
gavel.
all right.
I've never noticed one up here before.
I think it got pulled out during the zoning board meeting and did get put away.
It did, it did. So, we'll see where it all goes. I'm not the one to lead it. I can edge on, but I'm not the one to lead it. So that's gonna be done by administration.
All right. Anything else?
No?
Mr. Lund, did you have something to say?
He's coming.
Right. Well, I may have had something to add about this, but I'll take it to the school board. I just wanted to say that at the beginning of this meeting, our mixer and whatever, I don't know if you got any texts or whatever, but we weren't on and our recording wasn't working, and Susan came running down and we just switched it out. So the first bit of the meeting's missing, but everything's running fine as of a little before 7 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Moving on, communication, Board of Selectmen. Barry?
I'm all set.
Keith?
I have nothing.
John?
I'm good.
Bert?
I'm also good.
All right. I got two things. This is mud season. A lot of people have had trouble with mud over the past weekend and such on the dirt roads. It's a tradition up here in New England on dirt roads in the spring. We get mud when the frost comes out. And from everything I hear, this has been probably about as bad a mud season so far as people have seen. Our highway crews have been out working. Sometimes they have to wait for some of the moisture to come out before they can do much more with the roads. I ask everyone to be patient and understand that the highway crews are definitely doing all they can. They're not ignoring anything, but we've got 24 miles of dirt road, and they have a lot of mud to deal with. So just want to say that on that. Also, the other thing, over the weekend, the second edition of Newport Times came out. There's was a great article on the LaValle family in there. Good reading there. A lot of other good articles in there too. So I would imagine everyone that has gets their mail in Newport will have seen it by now. And just want to say thanks to the crew that made it possible, that put it together, and another great little piece on what a great community Newport is. So and that's all I got. Hunter, anything?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, earlier in the meeting, you asked if I had a reason for a non-public or any other sort of meeting. I would ask the board for an executive session on personnel at your very earliest convenience.
You mean like middle of the meeting sort of thing?
That would be suitable for me, but it's your meeting, so I'll
What's the pleasure of the
follow
board?
your lead.
Game? Yeah, sure.
Want to do it?
We can do it now.
Well, we'll do it after.
This section.
All right, and that would be a non-public under. What's this? Anyone need Fritos?
Depends on how long the non-public is.
Food personnel.
Just like to say I didn't get my copy of Newport Times yet, so.
You didn't?
Really?
I got mine.
Okay, I got mail today.
Can
I haven't read it
the
all
rate
yet.
get here?
Yeah, good picture of John in there.
I saw UPS go by today, but I have not seen the mail truck.
Personnel.
That's right, that's right.
Okay, that would be RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, small c, matters which, if discussed in public, would adversely affect the reputation of any person, etc., etc. Is there anything else for communications at this point? Then how long do you feel this will take?
That's largely up to you, 15 minutes.
All right. And it can't wait till the end?
I'm here at your call, but I think it is pertinent to the rest of the balance of your meeting.
All right. There a motion to go into non-public session at this time under RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, small c.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Herb?
Second.
Yes or no?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Keith?
Yes.
Barry? Yes. And I'll vote yes. And we will be coming back into public session after the non-public, which 15 minutes or so.